Okay, so today I have got final year student Manmeet with me. Welcome, Manmeet.
Hiya, my name's Manmeet. I study accounting and finance, and I did my placement at Vauxhall in Luton.
Excellent, thank you. And when was that? Was that last year or previous?
I think it was in July 2019. It seems like a long time ago. And I worked in one of four roles in the finance department. So there were four placement roles at Vauxhall, and I worked in fleet finance, so that's quite specific. And I worked in the long cycle as a fleet finance analyst. So essentially, what the role is to work alongside the sales team. You're kind of approving and rejecting deals they bring into you from different customers in the marketplace, and you kind of review a different amount of variables, so whether they're a new customer, an existing customer, what was their previous discount if they did have one on the vehicle they wanted, what monthly price they're trying to achieve with evidence. So you take in a lot of documents and staff review those documents alongside what the finance department wants to achieve and kind of approve and reject deals on that basis.
Gosh, that sounds really varied.
Oh, but it's so much fun, I must say.
Yeah, you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I very much enjoyed it because you're kind of given a lot of responsibility and your manager trusts you a lot to make the right decision, but there's also a lot of support. So when I joined my placement, I had a month with the previous placement student before they went off. So there was a good like handover period you get where they'll explain the role to you. They're there to support you if you're unsure about anything. So by the time they leave, you've kind of settled into the role quite well.
That's great. And you said there were four placements. Were you all sort of going through things together, or were you very disparate?
So in total, there was actually 20 placements across the whole company, and there
Wow.
was four just in the finance department. So the finance department is kind of split into two. So I was in fleet finance, so I had one other placement student with me, but he was in the short cycle part of fleet finance, and then the other two were in the pricing side of the vehicles. But you do all kind of work together, so you are integrated together with the placement students, and you're also integrated with the other 20 placement students that are also there. So I feel like the program they have for placement students is quite good because everyone's kind of working together. You're not just separately doing your own thing. You're all part of one team.
Excellent. So did you get any kind of induction and training beyond sort of the overlap with the previous placement student? Was there any training for all placement students?
Yeah, you did. So the first week they would train you on a lot of things. So like the company values, what we're trying to achieve. Like the finance department got a introduction into our budget for the year, what we're trying to achieve, how many vehicles we're trying to sell. So we did get quite a lot of training and introduction into the company, especially because Vauxhall was still integrating into the PSA group when we joined. So we had to get introduced on how to use the new systems, because when we got offered the roles, we were offered when Vauxhall was with General Motors. So of course we had to kind of adapt to the new system by the time we had joined. So we did get quite a lot of training for that as well.
So that's great exposure then to kind of
Yeah,
change management, isn't it? As well
yeah.
as the practicalities of doing your role. And then thinking about, that's a large company with a big placement scheme. How many applications did it take to secure a role like that?
Um, so I think this was my like sixth or seventh application. So it did take quite a lot of hard work because I did start applying quite early in second year. So I started in around end of September, October. I had started applying to placements because I knew like the big like three like PwC start
Mm.
closing the applications quite early. And I think I applied to Vauxhall in like February, March time. So you would say it's quite late to kind of apply
Yeah.
for a role. And I had just I did I think phone interview, and then I was called in for an assessment centre, and end of March I was offered the role, and I had started in July of that year. So
That's
it did take a lot of hard work to get that placement, but I think I got quite a lot of support because I did ask my personal tutor for help for my CV and my cover letter. So I asked him to like read through the stuff to see is there anywhere that I can improve, strengthen somewhere. And I'd also used the university's career hub. So that's where I had found the placement. It was on the Career Hub. So I would recommend using the Career Hub because there are quite a range of placements that you can find on there.
Yeah, the Career Hub platform has now changed. So for new students, it's called Handshake.
Yeah, Handshake, yeah.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. And we have a number of placements advertised on there, which kind of come to UH first before advertising elsewhere. So it's really a kind of a place to start, isn't it? Did you use any other forms of help when you were preparing for, say, selection centres and interviews?
So I remember in second year we went to, I think, Watford Football Centre to practice the assessment centre. And I must say that had helped me a lot because when I went for my assessment centre, I was prepared for a presentation. That was the first thing I had to do, was a presentation when I had got to my assessment centre. So I'd remembered the feedback that I had got when I went to Watford in the second year. So I think the university gives you a lot of support in second year and in first year to kind of prepare you for placements, especially on my course, accounting and finance. Our tutors push students to go on placement because it is quite a complex role, and of course, because we have accounting and finance, they want you to kind of figure out whether you want to go more into the accounting side or the finance side. But mostly I think I use support from the university to kind of strengthen my CV and my cover letter, because that is the most important thing you need to kind of stand out, especially your cover letter. There's a lot of companies that ask for cover letters. So to have a strong cover letter is like one of the main things you need to have.
And thinking about the CV and the cover letter, did you have much sort of previous experience that you could put onto a CV, in
Yeah,
applications?
I have been lucky enough to do quite a lot of apprenticeships, and that quite helped me kind of stand out to my employer. So that kind of helped me settle into the role better as well, because I kind of had an idea of how to work in a professional environment, but it was on a different scale because of course my apprenticeships were short term. They were 4 weeks, they were 2 months, they weren't a year long.
And how had
So
you got those internships? Were they just sort of people that you knew, or had you applied to?
people that I knew. So this placement was a lot different because I had to kind of put myself out there and be like, I want this role, rather than being lucky enough to ask people around me like, oh, can I do experience here for a few weeks or a month or so?
Yeah. So thinking about your CV now, in final year, as a result of having been on a placement, what additional things have you now got on your CV that you wouldn't have had if you hadn't done a placement?
So of course I have the long-term experience now. So I've had the year in industry, kind of in a stable job where I've had time to grow into the job. So I was able to build on the current skill set I had, so what I had learned from my previous apprenticeships, but also build new skills. So in my role, I was very reliant on Excel, and I believe that I was quite good at Excel when I had joined. But the work I was doing, I did take extra training. I took it upon myself to take extra training for Excel, what was offered by the company to take, so I could build my skills. So I feel like I was able to build a new skill set as well. So of course I had to lead meetings. I had never led a meeting in my life. So having the opportunity to do something like leading a meeting, starting a new project by myself, and my manager gave me free rein on this project. So I was able to kind of be a lot more independent as well as working as part of a team.
Excellent. That's really invaluable things to have on a CV when you apply for graduate roles now, isn't it?
Yeah, it does help now. So I kind of have an idea of the process of applying as well. So of course I've been through the assessment centre, I've done a phone interview, so I kind of know the steps to applying for a job. So that kind of gives you a lot of practice for when you are graduated and trying to apply for new graduate schemes.
Yeah. And what we find is that some students feel that they don't want to take a year for either going on placement or studying abroad, because that means that they're a year later to getting into the workforce. So do you feel like it's been a worthwhile thing to do, to take a placement year?
100%. I would love to do it again. It was the best. I think I would say one of the best experiences I've had, because it is a stepping stone into the working environment. You are working in a year in industry. You are part of the working environment. You're not really people do feel like, oh, I'm going to be a year behind. You shouldn't think that way, because you're gaining such like valuable experience when you're out there, and you grow professionally in that year. You become a lot more mature, and it does help you in your final year, because I believe that I can plan out my time a lot more effectively now, because working on placement, things come suddenly. It's not always perfect. Something can come and you have an hour to finish it. So it's being able to plan out your time, but also be prepared for anything that will come up. So that's helped me a lot in my assignments. I'm able to plan out my assignments a lot better. I'm able to kind of finish them efficiently, but to a high quality. So it's not like I'm leaving it last minute to do it. I'm giving myself time to plan and get my work checked by my tutors. So that's kind of helped. But I would 100% recommend going on placement. I'm
Excellent.
so happy with what I've achieved while I'm there, because I've been given responsibility that I've never been given before. So you kind of identify areas where you do want to work. Like, you will find what you like and what you don't like. So when you do apply for graduate schemes, you know what you want to apply for and what you don't want to apply for.
Yeah, great. And is there anything specific that you might offer BAME students in terms of guidance and thoughts on taking a placement year? So Black, Asian and minority ethnic students?
So I would just say try and stand out, because everyone's got there somehow, but it's like you're trying to put yourself out there. Just put yourself out there, because you can achieve so much. Because I was lucky enough, because my manager was very supportive, and I kind of approached him on my project that I wanted to start. And I was like, I really want to start this project because I wanted to make life easier for future placement students. Because of course my work was very reliant on previous deals that customers had made, and the deals we have last 2-3 years. So of course my previous placement student doesn't know about it either. So of course I tried to start a kind of spreadsheet where all the information of what I've approved, on what basis I've rejected stuff, like placement students can see. So instead of them trying to find this information and having to kind of rely on the sales team, there's the information there. So I would say try and take any opportunity that you get and try and identify areas of weakness where you can kind of step in and be like, hang on a minute, I feel like you need to do this differently. Because of course there is a lot more representation that is needed for BAME. So just by identifying areas and putting your opinion out there, because they do respect what you say, because they don't treat you like a student when you get there. You're part of the company, you're an individual part of the company. They don't see you any differently to someone that's been working there for 20 years. So it's just identifying things that will make you stand out and help the company also improve as well.
Excellent. And just thinking about the people that you worked with, have you built up a network of colleagues that you stay in touch with, you know, as a kind of a link to the industry going forward? And also, when you were in the workplace, were there any kind of staff networks that you were part of? I'm just thinking about here in the university, we have a BAME staff network. Was there anything similar like that in the placement?
So while I was on placement, because of course we were integrating to PSA group, so I had built the network that I had at Vauxhall. So of course I was mostly working with, of course, the finance department and the sales team. So I was able to build a network in the sales team, because I had to cover the graduate student for most of my placement. So of course I was able to build a bigger network than I was initially supposed to. So I have been able to keep in touch with them on LinkedIn. So it's nice to see how everyone's getting on and the changes that are happening while I'm not there. But also we were given mentors when we were at Vauxhall, and our mentor was someone that was like apprenticeship. So someone had been there for like 2 years, and they were in a completely different department to what we were. So we were able to network outside outside of our department. So my mentor was in the more social media PR side. So I was able to kind of network there as well to see what work they had done. So while at Vauxhall, they give you the opportunity for work shadowing. They promote it so much. Like, I think you need to go and work shadow to see how different departments work. They also gave us like a tour of the warehouse. So none of the placement students kind of worked in the warehouse. So they kind of set up times for us to see what actually occurs in the warehouse, how the manufacturing works. So they kind of pushed us to see how the whole organization works rather than you just being stuck in your department, I would say. So they would push you to kind of see the rest of the company, travel with the company. So to events as well, they would want you to travel to events. So there's a lot of experience that you do get, and that you do get to test drive the new vehicles when they do come out, which is a bonus. So I did get to test the electric Corsa that came out. So that's quite a lot of fun. They get you involved in everything, which I appreciated a lot while I was on placement.
And finally, my last question to you is, what are you most proud of in the year that you were on placement?
Ooh, I would say my project. I was very proud of my project because I had worked, I think, since September to get this spreadsheet 100% making sense. So I had gone through a lot of copies of that project, and it was a lot of hard work. And I was scared that I wasn't going to finish it because, of course, when COVID happened, I was furloughed for a month. So I was like, oh, is it going to be done by the time that I'm going to finish? And of course, I had like 4 weeks before I finished when I went back. So I was able to finish it, and I'm very proud of what I've achieved because my manager actually showed it to our finance director. So having the finance director quite happy with the work that I did was like the proudest moment for me, because I was quite close in the chain, I would say, to the finance director. So it was me, my manager, finance director. So of course, having the finance director see it was like the best moment of my placement. And
You left a memory.
He really did, because he came to me and he's like no one actually had thought of it like previously to kind of, I was like, I don't want the next placement student to struggle when I leave. So I wanted to make the process a lot easier, because I knew how it felt coming in to a very intense job, I would say, because the sales department are ruthless, because of course they want to impress their customers, they want to get what they want, but of course I would say the finance department's the backbone of the company. So I'm also proud of where I was able to stand my ground. So of course it's intimidating, because the sales department, they've been in the company for 5 to 10 to 20 years. So being able to kind of be like, no, I'm not approving this, right? This is what I'm doing. This is my final stance on it. Being able to have your voice heard, and them being able to understand what you're trying to say without making you feel like, oh, you're just a placement student. Like, they respect what you do while you're there. So I'm quite proud of being able to be respected within my department as well as the rest of the company as well.
Oh, it sounds like you've really developed a lot of confidence and had a really enjoyable year. So thank you so much for sharing your experience with us today.
Thank you, no problem.
Thanks, Manmeet. Bye.